Okay, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the City of Bloomington Plan Commission for November 15th, 2021. We have a number of petitions on the agenda tonight and some that have been continued as well. Let me just quickly give an overview of what we're looking at tonight. We've got 4 petitions that have been continued to the December 13th meeting. Those are DP 2021, Bledsoe, Riggert, Cooper James, property at 3111 South Walnut Street Pike. PUD DP 24-21, Robert V. Shaw petitioner. This is the North Prow Road, 3500 block of North Hackberry Street. SP 37-21, petitioner Cedar View Management, property at 3391 South Walnut. And DP 35-21, Joe Kemp Construction petitioner, property at 2400 South Adams Street. So anyone's here for those, you will need to wait a month. Those are coming back in December. We have 1 item on the consent agenda tonight, and then 2 petitions to be heard in full. And those are SP 3221 TCVC LLC petitioner, property at 532 North Morton Street, and DP 34-21 Habitat for Humanity of Monroe County, Inc. petitioner, a property at 650 West Guy Avenue. So that's what's on the agenda tonight. Before we get into those petitions, we have a little bit of just housekeeping to take care of, but let's start with the roll call to be sure we've got a quorum.
Okay, Wessler,
Here.
Burrell,
Here.
Herrera,
Here.
Sandberg,
Here.
Kate,
Here.
Seibor, sorry.
Here.
Cockram and St. John were both going to be gone tonight.
All right. Well,
Oh,
we
wait,
do have a-
I start Kinsey. I'm sorry, I forgot you.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
And we also need to include Enright Randolph in the role, even though he isn't a voting member, and he
Okay.
is here tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. So we do have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 voting members here tonight then, which is a quorum, but just a reminder, we'll still need, I think, 5 affirmative votes. Even though 4 would be a majority of those present, we need 5 votes to pass any motions. Let's start our first motion with the minutes. We have the minutes from October 18th, 2021. Would someone like to move approval of those minutes, or do we have any questions or corrections for those minutes? Commissioner Kinsey.
I'll move approval of the October minutes.
Second.
All right, all in favor of approving the October minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay. All right, the minutes are approved. We'll move on now to reports, resolutions, and communications. Are there any reports, resolutions, or communications from staff?
Sure. I just have a quick one. Jackie Scanlon, Development Services Manager. As we do at this meeting, usually every year, we want to let you know that our calendar for next year is complete. So that will go up on the website this week. And we didn't make any changes this year from last year for the breakdown of separation of meetings, or from the filing deadlines, for example, or final revision deadlines. So this schedule is very similar to last year's schedule. Obviously sometimes the dates change for Plan Commission and our other meetings based on if there are holidays, and obviously we often more often than the other days, we have Monday holidays. So you will see that they kind of vacillate sometimes between the second, third, and fourth Monday. But again, this will go up on the website this week, and we will email it out to you all. And if you see anything that you have a question about, please feel free to reach out to me. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Any other reports, resolutions, or communications? From staff, from commissioners? All right, seeing none, we will move on to our agenda. I've already mentioned the petitions that have been continued. We do have a consent agenda this evening. There is only one item on that consent agenda. And for those of you who are not familiar with the consent agenda, it's been a little bit since we've had one. But the consent agenda is typically where cases that are either fully by right or otherwise non-controversial and don't require a full hearing go, and we can approve those in bulk. Sometimes tonight, there's not much bulk. There's only one item there, which is DP 33-21, Cedar View Management as the petitioner. And the property is 3391 South Walnut Street. The request is for primary plat approval to allow for a two-lot subdivision. Is there any commissioner who would like to see that petition removed from the consent agenda and receive a full hearing? All right. Seeing none, then I think it would be appropriate at this time for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda, case DP 3321.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Before we call the roll, are there any questions about the consent agenda?
Brad, did you ask if there was
Commissioners?
anybody from the public that wanted to speak to that?
I will in just a moment. Yep. Any questions from commissioners on the consent agenda? Okay, is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on the consent agenda? If so, just click on that reactions button on the bottom of your screen and click raise hand, and we will recognize you to give your comments. I don't see any raised hands. Okay, last call for public comment on the consent agenda. Okay, seeing none, then I think we're back to the commission. Any final comments before we call the roll?
Brad, one thing I should have, I think, moved for approval with the recommendations, the conditions recommended by the staff. So there are 5 conditions recommended. So I amend my motion to be an approval with those conditions.
Thank you. Does the second still stand?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. All right, we've got a motion and a second. Let's call the roll on the consent agenda.
Okay, Seymour,
Yes.
Kenzie,
Yes.
Herrera,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes.
Sandberg,
Yes.
Whistler,
Yes.
and Kate.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, motion passes. Consent agenda is approved. Let's move on now to our petitions for full hearing. The first one is SP 3221, TCVC LLC, property at 532 North Morton Street. We have Eric Grulich here to present. Take it away, Eric.
Thank you, Commissioner Whistler. This is a request for TCVC, otherwise known as, or affiliated with Cedar View Management, for a property at 335 West 8th Street, or I'm sorry, 532 North Morton Street. This is for properties at the southeast corner of Morton and 10th Street. The petitioners are here requesting a major site plan approval to allow for the extension of a temporary approval of a first floor residential use instead of the required commercial space. So as I mentioned, this is at the southeast corner of Morton and 10th Street. This was approved in 2010 for a mixed-use building. At the time, the petitioners received a variance in order to allow for a reduction from the 50% of the ground floor that is required to be non-residential space. They received an approval to allow that to be 24%. They came back a year after that, after they were experiencing difficulties renting that space, to receive a waiver to allow for it to be fully used for a residential unit. So they received approval or a waiver to further reduce that ground floor requirement to 0% to allow for the entire ground floor to be used for a residential unit. So when the Planning Commission approved that in 2011, they put a 5-year sunset clause on that approval that required them to come back in 2016, in July of 2016, to get that approval reapproved. So they came back in 2016 for that reapproval. The Planning Commission in 2016 reapproved that 5-year waiver again, and put another 5-year sunset clause on that approval, and required a zoning commitment to that effect, stating that they would have to come back in 2021 to get that waiver reapproved. So here we are 5 years later again, and the petitioners are requesting approval in order to allow for the ground floor of this building to continue to be used as a residential unit. So it's a 3-bedroom unit that you can see on this floor plan here. And so the Planning Commission, while we no longer have the waiver process, the previous approvals and zoning commitments that were approved with this do still allow for the Planning Commission to approve another waiver. So the Planning Commission previously tied some of these waiver approvals to the uncertainty regarding the development of the trades district that's just adjacent to this. Things have still been kind of slow to develop within the trades district. However, we do have a new garage. There's been a redevelopment, remodeling within the mill building, as well as another building. There was a recent announcement for a possible new building that the city would be funding for office and tech space in here. So we do feel it is still appropriate to allow for the ground floor residential unit to continue to be used as such. However, at this time, we are recommending that the 5 years not be extended beyond the November 15th, 2026 approval date, and would require a zoning commitment to that effect. In essence, requiring at that time that the site must come into compliance with the zoning code. The current UDO, while it does not require 50% of the ground floor to be non-residential space, it does require the ground floor units be 20 feet back from the front of the building. So when this 5-year period is up, the petitioners would have to come into compliance with whatever language is in the UDO at that time period. So we are recommending approval of the request with the one condition that is listed in the staff's report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Eric. Are there any questions from commissioners for Eric? Or is there a representative of the petitioner here that would like to add anything? I see Carmen Parker. Before we get to questions, let's let the petitioner speak.
This is Mike Carmen representing the petitioner. There's not really, don't have anything to add to what Eric said. Lots can happen in 5 years. On one hand, it would be reflecting on the what sounds like an automatic conversion 5 years out, but lots can happen between now and then, and don't know what happened. We could talk a lot about empty storefronts throughout downtown and far-reaching areas. Those have to deal with the people who build these buildings have a name for those. We call them vacancies, and that's just a recurring problem. The city's experiencing that problem itself with the first floor of the 4th Street garage, and nothing's happening there, and nothing seems to be on the horizon to happen. So we would ask for the opportunity for this 5-year extension of the space as it is for your information, in case you're curious, it is convertible space. It can be converted, but there's a price tag even for the conversion. Price tag was given when I asked for an estimate on the cost was $125,000. So it's not a minor issue from our perspective, not only the cost of conversion, but being able to be confident we'd actively use it if converted. And that's the real setback this time. So we'd ask for the renewal of this, at least for the 5-year extension, then on the use as this now. And I guess that's it. Questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from commissioners, either for the petitioner or for staff? Commissioner Kate.
Thanks. Just a quick one, and it goes to, I think, what Mr. Parker was just talking about. It was just, what are the possibilities 5 years out with that 20-foot setback? Smaller residential property, conversion to some form of commercial use, both, something else? What is envisioned, if anything, at this point, understanding that 5 years is a long time and who knows what will happen between now and then?
Well, so as I mentioned, the UDO just requires that ground floor units be 20 feet back from the front. This is a corner. So they have 2 fronts there that would have to come in compliance. To be honest, we don't have a solution for that. The petitioner has 5 years to figure out how they could bring a property into compliance, as well as the UDO might change. So the language in these standards might very well be different 5 years from now. But regardless, at the end of this next 5-year extension, they would have to bring it into compliance with whatever standards are in the code at that time.
Thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners? All right, well, seeing none, then let's go to the public. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on SP 32-21? If so, just click that reactions button, click on raise hand, and we will recognize you. You'll have 5 minutes to speak. Not seeing any raised hands. Jackie, you see anything?
Nope.
If you have any trouble finding that raise hand button, feel free to just send a chat message as well, either to myself or to Jackie, and we'll recognize you that way as well. But I'm not seeing anyone. So last call for public comment on SP 32-21. Okay, we'll come back to the commission. Any final comments, questions, or a motion?
I'll motion. If there's no other questions or anything moving forward, I'll just motion to approve SP 32-21 TCV LLC at 532 North Morton Street with the major site plan approval to extend this temporary use of the first floor as for residential instead of commercial space, with the condition that allows this additional 5-year compliance period, but that it's brought into a compliance by November 15th, 2026.
Okay.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any final comments before we call the roll?
And I'll just add that while I certainly would prefer that this be in compliance, and I'm certainly not in favor of ongoing waivers of this sort, because I know they're administratively challenging to deal with, and we don't want to have things like this lingering. Vacant storefronts are probably not better than occupied housing. So I understand the rationale for this one, and we certainly need housing. So I think it meets some other goals that we have, but I really, really hope we can either get this project into compliance one way or the other.
All right, thank you. Any other final comments? All right, Darla, would you please call the roll?
Okay. Kate,
Yes.
Sandberg,
Yes.
Whistler,
Yes.
Seaboard,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes.
Herrera,
Yes.
and Kinsey.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, motion passes. We will move on now to DP 3421, Habitat for Humanity of Monroe County, Inc. And again, we have Eric Grulich to present.
Thank you. This is a request for Habitat for Humanity for a property at 650 West Guy Avenue. The petitioners are here tonight requesting secondary plat approval for subdivision of 5.34 acres for 30 residential lots and 3 common area lots. So this is within the property, the 12.5 acres or so that was approved last year and earlier this year for Habitat for Humanity to redevelop with a mix of single family attached and detached units that comprise a variety of public streets throughout the development, a lot of alley loaded properties throughout the development as well. So when this came forward for the primary plat approval, it was expected that this would be platted in 2 separate phases. So they are coming forward tonight to request secondary plat approval of the west half of this. So this would include the extension of Bernard Drive, as well as a portion of Duncan Drive and Chambers Drive along the north side of the site. So the petition site, which you can see here, as I mentioned, are 30 single family lots, as well as 3 common area lots. 2 of those common area lots would contain a multi-use path that would connect to the RCA park to the west of this. One of the other common area lots on the south side of the site would be for a detention pond. So you can see here the single family lots along the west side and the middle of the site. The ones along the middle of the site would be alley loaded and alley access. There is a area of tree preservation, or I'm sorry, conservation along the west side of the site that also wraps around for portions of the common area. That is to save the trees that are along those fence rows. So this is part of the Thompson PUD, and there were some specific standards that were approved with the PUD, specifically to allow for these smaller lot sizes, smaller lot widths, and reduced setbacks. Those were outlined in the staff's report. So as I mentioned, they are simply coming forward with the secondary plat, essentially identical to what was shown in the primary plat. We have approved a grading permit to allow for infrastructure and grading within phase 1 of this development. So they are working on installing that now. And then so this would be the first of the 2 phases of the plat in order to allow for some of these lots to be sold and new houses to be constructed. So with that, we are recommending approval secondary plat with
Good evening. Yeah, my name is Nathan Ferreira, Director of Land Development and Production for Habitat for Humanity. We remain excited about this project. We're looking at 30 lots that we've already started to build on in the first phase of this project. We think it checks all the boxes in terms of what the city needs with this specific type of housing, affordable housing for working families, low-income families. And I think we achieve that. A very good project. Yeah, forward with this. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions from commissioners?
Recording in progress.
All right. Let's go to the public then. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on 34? Again, if you would like to make comment, just click on that reactions button, click on the raise hand button. Or if you can't find that button, just send a chat message to myself or to Jackie Scanlon, and we'll recognize you. You'll have 5 minutes to speak. Well, we just aren't as popular as we used to be. Be third one. Well, we are now back to the commission as a remissive recommendation P3421 with 5 conditions that are listed in the packet. Eric, do you have those conditions on a slide? There they are. Okay, this is the staff recommendation.
Brad, I'll move that we approve DP 3421 with the conditions listed here by staff, and just say that it's great and exciting that this development is taking its next phase.
All right, we have a motion. Okay, great. Motion and a second. Any final comments before we call the roll?
I have to say, I just want to say how much I appreciate this project. And I don't know if Nate Ferrer can indicate how soon what the schedule is for this project. What's the plan? Sorry, probably just, Jackie, I know you probably just unmuted him.
Hold on.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. I was like, why isn't he talking? Sorry.
We're actually, infrastructure is not very much delayed, so we're looking at finishing next month. I just heard that they're hoping to pour asphalt next Tuesday or the 22nd. So it's moving along quickly. We've already started a few houses, but those won't be completed until the spring. And then we are ramping back up production post-COVID to what's more normal for us. So I imagine we'll finish out phase 1 within the next 3.5 years. All those houses.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
May I make a clarification? I'm sorry, I just missed it when I was writing it down. What the motion included the conditions of the 5 conditions, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
That's correct. All right, any final comments? Last call. All right, let's call the roll on the motion to approve DP 3421.
Okay, Kinsey,
Yes.
Seaboard,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes.
Herrera,
Yes.
Whistler,
Yes.
Sandberg,
Yes.
and Kate.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, the motion passes and that petition is approved. It's hard to believe, but I think that's the end of our agenda. Jackie, am I missing something?
No,
This
that's
is a little
it. So
bit-
we have
it's
a
a little bit
lot of
surreal.
continuances, but so maybe a little longer next month, but we'll take it this month.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your night, and we'll see you back on December 13th for our next episode.